Question 1. What is the impact of the Texas Agricultural Development District Act on real estate development in rural areas? A. It restricts any real estate development in rural areas. B. It offers tax incentives for agricultural developments. C. It mandates environmental assessments for all rural developments. D. It encourages urbanization of rural areas. Answer: B. It offers tax incentives for agricultural developments. Explanation: the Texas Agricultural Development District Act impacts real estate development in rural areas by offering tax incentives to promote agricultural developments, aiming to support and sustain agricultural activities. Question 2. Describe the legal implications of transferring property under a ladybird deed in Texas. A. The property is automatically exempt from taxes. B. The grantor retains control over the property during their lifetime. C. The deed is only valid for commercial properties. D. The property cannot be sold once the deed is executed. Answer: B. The grantor retains control over the property during their lifetime. Explanation: a ladybird deed in Texas allows the grantor to retain control over the property during their lifetime, including the right to sell or mortgage it, and automatically transfers to the designated beneficiary upon the grantor's death without the need for probate. Question 3. Explain the rule against perpetuities and its application in Texas real estate law. A. It limits the length of time for mineral rights exploitation. B. It prohibits perpetually binding real estate contracts. C. It restricts property interests from lasting beyond a certain period. D. It applies exclusively to commercial leases. Answer: C. It restricts property interests from lasting beyond a certain period. Explanation: the rule against perpetuities in Texas real estate law is a legal principle that restricts property interests from lasting indefinitely beyond a certain period, typically measured as 21 years beyond the lifespan of a relevant individual, to prevent long-term restrictions on property use. Question 4. How does Texas law handle the dissolution of a joint tenancy when one of the tenants declares bankruptcy? A. The joint tenancy is automatically converted to a tenancy in common. B. The property is immediately sold off to pay debts. C. The bankruptcy has no impact on the joint tenancy. D. The non-bankrupt tenants must buy out the bankrupt tenant's share. Answer: A. The joint tenancy is automatically converted to a tenancy in common. Explanation: in Texas, when one of the tenants in a joint tenancy declares bankruptcy, the joint tenancy is typically dissolved and converted into a tenancy in common. This change impacts the rights of survivorship associated with joint tenancy. Question 5. Define statutory redemption and its relevance in Texas foreclosure proceedings. A. It allows the buyer to return the property within a year. B. It refers to the right of a mortgagor to reclaim foreclosed property. C. It's a tax benefit for purchasing foreclosed properties. D. It's the process of auctioning foreclosed properties. Answer: B. It refers to the right of a mortgagor to reclaim foreclosed property. Explanation: statutory redemption in Texas foreclosure proceedings refers to the right of a mortgagor to reclaim their foreclosed property by paying the full sale price, including additional costs and interest, within a specific period after the foreclosure sale. Question 6. Scenario: a Texas property with a historical landmark designation is being sold. What are the legal restrictions on the new owner regarding modifications? A. No restrictions. The new owner can modify freely. B. Modifications must maintain the property's historical integrity. C. Only interior modifications are allowed. D. The property cannot be modified or sold. Answer: B. Modifications must maintain the property's historical integrity. Explanation: when a property with a historical landmark designation in Texas is sold, the new owner faces legal restrictions that require any modifications to maintain the property's historical integrity, preserving its architectural and cultural significance. Question 7. What are the specific requirements and limitations for a homestead cap in Texas property tax assessments? A. Limit of a 10% increase in taxable value annually. B. No more than 5% increase in property taxes each year. C. Cap only applies to commercial properties. D. A fixed tax rate for primary residences. Answer. A. Limit of a 10% increase in taxable value annually. Explanation. In Texas, the homestead cap for property tax assessments limits the increase in taxable value of a homestead to no more than 10% each year. This cap is designed to provide homeowners with some predictability and protection from large tax increases. Question 8. How does Texas law regulate wraparound mortgages, and what are the potential risks for buyers and sellers? A. They are prohibited in Texas. B. Requires full disclosure and agreement of the original lender. C. No specific regulations. It's a standard practice. D. Mandatory state approval for all wraparound mortgages. Answer. B. Requires full disclosure and agreement of the original lender. Explanation. Texas law allows wraparound mortgages, but requires full disclosure to and agreement of the original lender. Potential risks include the original lender calling the loan due, acceleration clause, and the seller failing to make payments on the underlying mortgage. Question 9. Discuss the legal framework surrounding mechanics liens in Texas and the process for enforcing them. A. They apply only to automobile repairs. B. A legal claim against property for unpaid construction work or materials. C. Mandatory arbitration required before filing a lien. D. Liens can be filed without notifying the property owner. Answer. B. A legal claim against property for unpaid construction work or materials. Explanation. In Texas, a mechanic's lien is a legal claim against a property by contractors, subcontractors, or suppliers for unpaid construction work or materials. The process for enforcing them involves filing the lien with the county and potentially pursuing legal action to enforce the lien and receive payment. Question 10. Explain the concept of community reinvestment areas in Texas and their impact on real estate development. A. Areas designated for exclusive commercial development. B. Regions where real estate investment is prohibited. C. Designated areas incentivized for development to revitalize communities. D. Areas with mandatory community service requirements for residents. Answer. C. Designated areas incentivized for development to revitalize communities. Explanation. Community reinvestment areas in Texas are designated regions where development is incentivized, typically through tax abatements or grants, to revitalize communities, improve housing, and encourage economic growth. This impacts real estate development by directing investments to these areas. Question 11. What legal challenges arise in Texas when dealing with properties located in both a municipal utility district, MUD, and a public improvement district, PID? A. Double taxation and overlapping regulations. B. No legal challenges as both entities operate independently. C. Properties in both districts are exempt from taxes. D. Mandatory division of the property between the two districts. Answer. A. Double taxation and overlapping regulations. Explanation. Properties located in both a municipal utility district, MUD, and a public improvement district, PID, in Texas may face legal challenges such as double taxation and dealing with overlapping regulations from both entities, which can complicate property ownership and development. Question 12. How does the Texas Real Estate Commission, TREC, enforce compliance with the Interstate Land Sales Full Disclosure Act? A. By conducting annual property inspections. B. Through mandatory disclosure of property conditions in interstate sales. C. It does not enforce this federal act. D. By requiring federal registration for all land sales. Answer. B. Through mandatory disclosure of property conditions in interstate sales. Explanation. The Texas Real Estate Commission, TREC, enforces compliance with the Interstate Land Sales Full Disclosure Act by requiring mandatory disclosure of property conditions in interstate land sales, ensuring buyers are fully informed about their purchases. Question 13. Scenario. In Texas, a property owner is facing a partition action filed by a co-owner. What legal processes and considerations are involved? A. The property is automatically divided equally. B. A court may order the sale or division of the property. C. The property defaults to the co-owner with the largest share. D. Mandatory mediation before any legal action. Answer B. A court may order the sale or division of the property. Explanation. In a partition action in Texas, a co-owner can ask the court to terminate the joint ownership, which may lead to the court ordering the sale or physical division of the property, considering factors like the property's characteristics and owner's interests. Question 14. Describe the legal considerations for converting a Texas property into a condominium regime. A. No legal considerations. It's a simple process. B. Compliance with Texas condominium laws and obtaining approval from all property owners. C. Only possible for properties within city limits. D. Mandatory conversion to a commercial property first. Answer. B. Compliance with Texas condominium laws and obtaining approval from all property owners. Explanation. Converting a property into a condominium regime in Texas involves legal considerations such as compliance with specific state condominium laws, creating a condominium declaration, and obtaining approval from all existing property owners. Question 15. What is the role of the Texas Water Development Board in real estate development, particularly in areas with water scarcity? A. Solely responsible for water supply to all properties. B. Provides financing and planning for water resources in development projects. C. Has no role in real estate development. D. Regulates property sizes based on water availability. Answer. B. Provides financing and planning for water resources in development projects. Explanation. The Texas Water Development Board plays a crucial role in real estate development, especially in areas with water scarcity, by providing financing and assistance in planning for sustainable water resources and infrastructure in development projects. Question 16. Discuss the implications of the Texas Residential Construction Liability Act, RCLA, for property owners and builders. A. It limits builders' liability in construction defects. B. Mandates a 10-year warranty for all new constructions. C. Provides automatic compensation for construction defects. D. Requires builders to have specialized insurance. Answer. A. It limits builders' liability in construction defects. Explanation. The Texas Residential Construction Liability Act, RCLA, has significant implications for property owners and builders by limiting builders' liability in construction defects. It outlines specific procedures for making claims and caps the amount of damages that can be recovered. Question 17. Explain the process and legal ramifications of adverse possession claims against government-owned land in Texas. A. Claims are automatically granted after 5 years. B. Adverse possession claims cannot be made against government-owned land. C. The process is the same as for private land. D. Requires a special permit from the government. Answer. B. Adverse possession claims cannot be made against government-owned land. Explanation. In Texas, adverse possession claims cannot be made against government-owned land. Adverse possession laws allow individuals to claim ownership of private land under specific conditions, but these laws do not apply to property owned by the government. Question 18. Scenario. A Texas property is subject to a ground lease with a remaining term of 30 years. What are the implications for potential buyers regarding financing and property rights? A. Financing is not possible for ground-leased properties. B. Buyers own the property outright after the lease term. C. Limited financing options and property rights are tied to the lease term. D. buyers must renegotiate the lease terms before purchasing. Answer: C. Limited financing options and property rights are tied to the lease term. Explanation: for a Texas property with a 30-year remaining ground lease term, potential buyers may face limited financing options as lenders consider the lease term. Additionally, the buyer's property rights are tied to and limited by the duration of the ground lease. Question 19. How does the Texas Economic Development Act affect property tax incentives for commercial real estate projects? A. It provides no incentives for commercial projects. B. Offers tax abatements for qualifying commercial developments. C. Mandates a fixed tax rate for all commercial properties. D. Requires commercial projects to contribute to a state development fund. Answer: B. Offers tax abatements for qualifying commercial developments. Explanation: the Texas Economic Development Act impacts commercial real estate projects by offering property tax abatements for qualifying developments. This incentivizes commercial projects that contribute to economic growth and job creation in the state. Question 20. Define transfer on death deed in Texas estate planning and its impact on real estate inheritance. A. A deed that transfers property to the state upon the owner's death. B. Allows property to be transferred to a designated beneficiary upon the owner's death. C. Transfers property to heirs only after probate. D. A deed that invalidates any wills or trusts. Answer: B. Allows property to be transferred to a designated beneficiary upon the owner's death. Explanation: in Texas, a transfer on death deed is a legal document that allows property owners to name a beneficiary who will inherit the property upon the owner's death, bypassing the probate process. It provides a simple way to manage real estate inheritance. Question 21. In Texas, how is the issue of encroachment by a neighbor's property handled legally, and what are the possible remedies? A. The encroaching neighbor automatically gains ownership of the land. B. The property owner can request removal or seek compensation. C. Encroachment issues are not recognized in Texas law. D. Mandatory mediation is required before any legal action. Answer: B. The property owner can request removal or seek compensation. Explanation: in Texas, when a neighbor's property encroaches on another's land, the affected property owner can legally request the removal of the encroachment or seek compensation. The issue may be resolved through negotiation or, if necessary, legal action. Question 22. Explain the implications of the Texas Safe Harbor Act on real estate brokerage practices. A. It eliminates all liabilities for real estate brokers. B. Provides brokers with specific guidelines to avoid certain liabilities. C. Mandates that all brokerages carry liability insurance. D. It applies only to commercial real estate transactions. Answer: B. Provides brokers with specific guidelines to avoid certain liabilities. Explanation: the Texas Safe Harbor Act impacts real estate brokerage practices by providing brokers with specific guidelines and actions that, if followed, can help them avoid certain liabilities, particularly in the context of providing advice on complex transactions. Question 23. Scenario: a real estate development in Texas is found to impact a protected wildlife habitat. What environmental regulations and legal challenges might the developer face? A. No challenges, as Texas law prioritizes development. B. Compliance with the Endangered Species Act and potential legal challenges. C. Only local environmental regulations apply. D. A standard environmental impact fee is required. Answer: B. Compliance with the Endangered Species Act and potential legal challenges. Explanation: in Texas, if a real estate development impacts a protected wildlife habitat, the developer must comply with federal environmental regulations, such as the Endangered Species Act, and may face legal challenges or requirements to modify or halt the development to protect the habitat. Question 24. What is the legal process for challenging a property tax assessment in Texas that a homeowner believes is unjustly high? A. Filing a formal protest with the local appraisal review board. B. Direct appeal to the state court. C. Submitting a complaint to the Texas Real Estate Commission. D. Automatic reassessment every 5 years. Answer: A. Filing a formal protest with the local appraisal review board. Explanation: in Texas, homeowners who believe their property tax assessment is unjustly high can challenge it by filing a formal protest with the local appraisal review board. This board reviews the assessment and can make adjustments if the homeowner's case is persuasive. Question 25. How does Texas law address the complexities of mineral rights in urban areas, especially when it comes to real estate transactions? A. Mineral rights are always included with the property sale. B. They are typically retained by the original landowners. C. Mandatory disclosure of mineral rights status in real estate transactions. D. Urban areas are exempt from mineral rights considerations. Answer: C. Mandatory disclosure of mineral rights status in real estate transactions. Explanation: in Texas, the complexities of mineral rights in urban areas are addressed by requiring mandatory disclosure of the status of mineral rights in real estate transactions. This ensures that buyers are aware of whether mineral rights are included or have been previously retained. Question 26. Scenario: a Texas property owner wants to sever a joint tenancy arrangement without the consent of the other parties. What legal steps are involved? A. Automatic severance after filing a notice with the county. B. Selling or transferring their interest to another party. C. Obtaining approval from the Texas Real Estate Commission. D. Joint tenancy cannot be severed without mutual consent. Answer: B. Selling or transferring their interest to another party. Explanation: in Texas, a property owner can sever a joint tenancy arrangement without the consent of the other parties by selling or transferring their interest in the property to another party. This action converts the joint tenancy into a tenancy in common. Question 27. Define the concept of equitable servitude in Texas property law and its application in residential communities. A. A legal requirement for equal property distribution. B. A restriction placed on the use of land for the benefit of another property. C. Mandatory community service for property maintenance. D. A temporary suspension of property rights. Answer: B. A restriction placed on the use of land for the benefit of another property. Explanation: equitable servitude in Texas property law is a concept where a restriction is placed on the use of land for the benefit of another property, typically seen in residential communities as covenants that ensure certain standards or practices are maintained for the benefit of the community. Question 28. What are the legal obligations of Texas real estate agents under the Anti-Money Laundering (AML) regulations? A. Agents are exempt from AML regulations. B. Reporting suspicious transactions and maintaining records. C. Conducting background checks on all clients. D. Agents are responsible for clients' legal compliance. Answer: B. Reporting suspicious transactions and maintaining records. Explanation: under the anti-money laundering regulations, Texas real estate agents have legal obligations to report suspicious transactions that might indicate money laundering and to maintain records of transactions as required by law to help prevent illegal financial activities. Question 29. Scenario: a buyer in Texas purchases a property at an auction sale. They later discover undisclosed easements. What legal recourse is available? A. No recourse, as auction sales are final. B. Seeking damages or rescission of the sale for failure to disclose. C. Mandatory arbitration with the auctioneer. D. Reporting the issue to the Texas Real Estate Commission. Answer: B. Seeking damages or rescission of the sale for failure to disclose. Explanation. In Texas, if a buyer purchases a property at an auction and later discovers undisclosed easements, they may have legal recourse to seek damages or potentially rescind the sale due to the failure to disclose significant property information. Question 30. Discuss the impact of Texas right to farm laws on rural and suburban real estate development. A. They prohibit any real estate development near farms. B. They protect agricultural operations from nuisance lawsuits. C. Mandatory agricultural use for all rural and suburban lands. D. They provide tax benefits for converting farmland to residential use. Answer. B. They protect agricultural operations from nuisance lawsuits. Explanation. Texas's right to farm laws impact rural and suburban real estate development by protecting existing agricultural operations from nuisance lawsuits related to ordinary farming activities. This law supports agricultural continuity despite nearby urban development. Question 31. In Texas, what are the specific legal requirements for a property to qualify as a homestead under state law? A. The property must be used for agricultural purposes. B. Ownership of at least 50 acres of land. C. The property must be the owner's primary residence. D. A property with historical significance. Answer. C. The property must be the owner's primary residence. Explanation. In Texas, for a property to qualify as a homestead, it must be the owner's primary residence. This qualification provides certain protections and benefits, such as exemption from forced sale by creditors and property tax advantages. Question 32. Scenario. A Texas property located in a floodplain is sold without the required flood hazard disclosures. What penalties and liabilities might the seller face? A. No penalties, as flood hazard disclosures are optional. B. Legal action for rescission of the sale and damages. C. A fine paid to the Texas Real Estate Commission. D. Mandatory flood proofing of the property. Answer. B. Legal action for rescission of the sale and damages. Explanation. In Texas, if a seller fails to disclose that a property is located in a floodplain, they may face legal action, including rescission of the sale and damages. Accurate disclosure of flood hazards is a legal requirement to ensure buyers are informed of potential risks. Question 33. Explain the legal concept of condominium termination in Texas and the process involved. A. Condominiums cannot be terminated in Texas. B. Automatic termination after 50 years. C. Dissolution based on a majority vote of the unit owners. D. Termination requires state government approval. Answer. C. Dissolution based on a majority vote of the unit owners. Explanation. In Texas, the legal concept of condominium termination involves the dissolution of the condominium regime, which can occur based on a majority vote of the unit owners or other criteria outlined in the condominium's governing documents. Question 34. How does Texas law regulate commercial brokers' lines on property, and what rights do brokers have in enforcing these lines? A. Brokers cannot place lines on properties. B. Lines are only for residential property transactions. C. Right to place a line for unpaid commissions on the property they helped sell or lease. D. Mandatory court approval for line placement. Answer. C. Right to place a line for unpaid commissions on the property they helped sell or lease. Explanation. Texas law allows commercial real estate brokers to place lines on properties for unpaid commissions related to the sale or lease of commercial real estate. This right helps ensure brokers are compensated for their services. Question 35. Scenario. A Texas homeowner discovers ancient artifacts on their property. What legal and archaeological considerations must they be aware of? A. Artifacts belong to the homeowner with no restrictions. B. Requirement to report the find to state authorities and potential preservation obligations. C. Artifacts must be sold to the highest bidder. D. Immediate confiscation of the property by the state. Answer. B. requirement to report the fine to state authorities and potential preservation obligations. Explanation. In Texas, if a homeowner discovers ancient artifacts on their property, they are legally required to report the fine to state authorities. There may be archaeological preservation obligations and considerations regarding the treatment and ownership of the artifacts. Question 36. Discuss the legal complexities of real estate transactions involving properties in Texas with historic designation. A. No complexities. Historic designation has no legal impact. B. Transactions require special approval from historical societies. C. Restrictions on modifications and potential requirement for preservation. D. Historic properties can only be sold to government entities. Answer. C. Restrictions on modifications and potential requirement for preservation. Explanation. In Texas, real estate transactions involving properties with historic designation involve legal complexities, such as restrictions on modifications and alterations to preserve the property's historical integrity, potentially impacting the property's use and value. Question 37. In Texas, how does community property law affect the sale of real estate owned by a married couple when one spouse is unavailable or unwilling to sign the sale documents? A. The sale can proceed with only one spouse's consent. B. Sale requires consent from both spouses regardless of availability. C. A court order is required for the sale to proceed. D. The property is automatically transferred to the available spouse. Answer. B. Sale requires consent from both spouses regardless of availability. Explanation. Under Texas community property law, the sale of real estate owned by a married couple typically requires the consent of both spouses, even if one is unavailable or unwilling to sign the sale documents. This ensures that both parties' interests are represented. Question 38. Scenario. A Texas real estate agent is accused of violating the Fair Housing Act. What are the legal consequences and processes for addressing the violation? A. Immediate revocation of the agent's license. B. Investigation and potential penalties, including fines and legal action. C. A warning and mandatory training. D. Violations are handled exclusively by the real estate agency. Answer. B. Investigation and potential penalties, including fines and legal action. Explanation. If a Texas real estate agent is accused of violating the Fair Housing Act, they may face an investigation and potential penalties, including fines, legal action, and possibly the loss of their real estate license, depending on the severity of the violation. Question 39. Define lis pendens in Texas real estate law and its effect on property transactions. A. A mandatory inspection notice for all transactions. B. A legal notice that a lawsuit involving the property is pending. C. A lien placed on a property for unpaid taxes. D. A declaration of property abandonment. Answer. B. A legal notice that a lawsuit involving the property is pending. Explanation. Lis pendens in Texas real estate law is a legal notice filed in the public record, indicating that a lawsuit involving the property is pending. It affects property transactions by alerting potential buyers or financiers to the legal dispute, which may impact the property's title. Question 40. How does the Texas Residential Property Owners Protection Act protect homeowners in HOA communities, and what are its limitations? A. Complete immunity from HOA rules and fees. B. Provides rights and protections against abusive HOA practices. C. The Act only applies to condominium owners. D. Homeowners can disband HOAs without legal process. Answer. B. Provides rights and protections against abusive HOA practices. Explanation. The Texas Residential Property Owners Protection Act offers homeowners in HOA communities certain rights and protections, such as fair notice and hearing procedures, and limits on HOA's power to foreclose. However, it does not exempt homeowners from abiding by HOA rules and fees and has limitations in its scope of governance over HOAs. Question 41. What are the legal implications in Texas when a property falls under both a municipal utility district, MUD, and a public improvement district, PID? A. The property is exempt from property taxes. B. The property may be subject to overlapping services and taxation. C. The PID takes precedence over the MUD. D. MUD and PID cannot coexist. One must be dissolved. Answer B. The property may be subject to overlapping services and taxation. Explanation. In Texas, if a property falls under both a municipal utility district, MUD, and a public improvement district, PID, it can lead to legal implications such as overlapping services and possibly double taxation, with each district levying its own taxes or fees for the services provided. Question 42. Explain the doctrine of prior appropriation as it applies to water rights in Texas real estate. A. Water rights are determined by land proximity to the water source. B. The first person to use a water source has the rights to its use. C. Water rights are allocated equally to all landowners. D. The state has priority over all water rights. Answer. B. The first person to use a water source has the rights to its use. Explanation. The doctrine of prior appropriation, applied in Texas, is a principle in water rights law where the first person to use a significant amount of water from a water source for a beneficial use has the right to continue to use that amount of water. This doctrine is crucial in Texas, where water rights are critical for both agricultural and urban development. Question 43. Scenario. In Texas, a commercial property owner is required to comply with newly implemented energy efficiency regulations. What legal and financial considerations are involved? A. No considerations. Compliance is optional. B. Potential retrofitting costs and compliance with energy efficiency standards. C. Immediate sale of the property is required. D. Payment of a non-compliance fine without the need for retrofitting. Answer. B. Potential retrofitting costs and compliance with energy efficiency standards. Explanation. In Texas, a commercial property owner facing new energy efficiency regulations may need to consider the financial impact of retrofitting the property to meet these standards. Legal considerations include ensuring compliance to avoid penalties and understanding the specifics of the regulations. Question 44. How do Texas laws govern the disclosure of psychological stigmas, for example, a death on the property, in real estate transactions? A. Mandatory disclosure of all psychological stigmas. B. Disclosure is not required for psychological stigmas. C. Only required if asked by the buyer. D. Disclosure is required only for violent deaths. Answer. B. Disclosure is not required for psychological stigmas. Explanation. In Texas, real estate laws do not require sellers to disclose psychological stigmas, such as a death that occurred on the property, unless there is a direct material effect on the physical condition of the property or its value. Question 45. Discuss the legal nuances of the Texas homestead law regarding the protection from creditors for homeowners. A. Unlimited protection against all types of creditors. B. Protection against forced sale by certain creditors, with exceptions. C. The law only applies to agricultural properties. D. Homeowners must apply annually for this protection. Answer. B. Protection against forced sale by certain creditors, with exceptions. Explanation. The Texas homestead law provides homeowners with protection against forced sale by certain creditors, thereby safeguarding the family home from being seized for debts. However, there are exceptions, such as mortgages, property taxes, and certain types of secured loans. Question 46. Scenario. A Texas real estate broker faces allegations of violating RESPA, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, regulations. What are the potential legal outcomes? A. Immediate license suspension. B. Fines and possible legal action for violations. C. Compulsory ethics training with no other penalties. D. Allegations do not impact brokers in Texas. Answer B. Fines and possible legal action for violations. Explanation: if a Texas real estate broker is alleged to have violated RESPA regulations, they may face potential legal outcomes, including fines and possible legal action. Such violations can result in significant penalties, emphasizing the importance of compliance with federal real estate laws. Question 47. Define color of title in Texas property law and its significance in adverse possession claims. A. Official government-issued title. B. A title that appears valid but has legal defects. C. Title obtained through inheritance. D. The most recent title in property records. Answer B. A title that appears valid but has legal defects. Explanation: in Texas property law, color of title refers to a title that appears to be valid and gives some claim of ownership, but has one or more legal defects. In adverse possession claims, having color of title can strengthen the claim, as it shows some degree of ownership legitimacy. Question 48. In Texas, how are air rights above a property legally defined and traded in urban development? A. They are always owned by the city. B. Rights to develop or use the space above the land can be sold separately. C. Air rights do not exist in Texas law. D. Equal to land rights and cannot be separated. Answer B. Rights to develop or use the space above the land can be sold separately. Explanation: in Texas, air rights refer to the rights to develop or use the space above a piece of land. These rights can be very valuable in urban development, particularly for high-rise construction, and can be sold or leased separately from the land. Question 49. Scenario: a Texas landlord faces a lawsuit for violating the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, in their rental property. What are the key legal considerations? A. The ADA does not apply to private rental properties. B. Compliance with ADA accessibility requirements and potential damages. C. Landlords are automatically exempt from ADA lawsuits. D. A mandatory settlement is required by Texas law. Answer B. Compliance with ADA accessibility requirements and potential damages. Explanation: a Texas landlord facing an ADA lawsuit must consider compliance with ADA accessibility requirements. Key legal considerations include ensuring the property is accessible to people with disabilities and understanding potential liabilities, including damages, for failing to comply. Question 50. Explain the legal concept of constructive eviction in Texas and the circumstances under which a tenant can claim it. A. Tenant's right to evict a landlord for property misuse. B. When a landlord's actions render the property uninhabitable. C. Automatic eviction process for non-paying tenants. D. A legal process for evicting squatters. Answer B. When a landlord's actions render the property uninhabitable. Explanation: constructive eviction in Texas occurs when a landlord's actions or failure to act makes the rental property uninhabitable, effectively forcing the tenant to leave. Tenants can claim constructive eviction if they have to vacate due to conditions that violate the lease agreement or legal standards for habitability.